Question 1. The efficiency study reveals that drivers are spending an average of 30 seconds longer on their pre-trip inspections when they meticulously check and adjust the driver's seat and seatbelt for optimal positioning and functionality. Considering the paramount importance of student safety and regulatory compliance for school bus operations, which of the following actions best reflects professional responsibility and adherence to the Commercial Driver's License (CDL) school bus endorsement requirements? Option A. Perform a quick visual check of the seat and seatbelt to ensure there are no obvious defects, assuming they are functional from the previous day's trip. Option B. Focus on completing the pre-trip inspection within the average time, prioritizing schedule adherence over detailed checks of the driver's seat and seatbelt if they seem generally acceptable. Option C. Conduct a thorough inspection of the driver's seat, ensuring it is adjusted for proper reach to controls and visibility, and verify the seatbelt latches securely, adjusts properly, and retracts smoothly, even if it adds time to the pre-trip inspection. Option D. Adjust the driver's seat and seatbelt only if they are noticeably uncomfortable or appear to be damaged, rather than ensuring optimal positioning for safe operation. Correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough inspection of the driver's seat, ensuring it is adjusted for proper reach to controls and visibility, and verify the seatbelt latches securely, adjusts properly, and retracts smoothly, even if it adds time to the pre-trip inspection. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a school bus driver to balance the immediate need for operational efficiency with the paramount importance of student safety. The driver must quickly and accurately assess the condition and adjustability of the driver's seat and seatbelt system, recognizing that any compromise in these critical safety features can have severe consequences. The pressure to adhere to a schedule, as implied by an efficiency study, can create a temptation to overlook minor issues or rush through pre-trip inspections, making careful judgment and adherence to regulations essential. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach, which prioritizes a thorough inspection and adjustment of the driver's seat and seatbelt, represents best professional practice because it directly aligns with federal and state regulations governing commercial vehicle safety, specifically for school buses. These regulations mandate that drivers ensure their vehicle is in safe operating condition before each trip. A properly adjusted seat and a functional seatbelt are fundamental to the driver's ability to control the vehicle safely and react effectively in emergency situations. Failure to ensure these components are in good working order is a direct violation of safety standards and an ethical failure to protect student passengers. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves performing a cursory visual check of the seat and seatbelt without verifying proper adjustment or functionality. This is a regulatory failure because it does not meet the requirement for a thorough pre-trip inspection. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the safety of the students. Another incorrect approach is to assume the seat and seatbelt are functional based on previous trips without performing the check on the current trip. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Vehicle components can malfunction or become misadjusted between trips, and relying on past performance is negligent. A third incorrect approach is to adjust the seat and seatbelt only if they are obviously broken or significantly uncomfortable, rather than ensuring they are optimally positioned for safe operation. This is a regulatory failure as it falls short of the requirement for proper adjustment for safe control. Ethically, it prioritizes convenience over the highest standard of safety, potentially compromising the driver's ability to operate the bus effectively in all conditions. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a systematic pre-trip inspection checklist that includes specific checks for the driver's seat and seatbelt. This checklist should prompt verification of 1. The seat's ability to be adjusted to a position that allows full control of pedals and steering wheel and clear visibility, and 2. The seatbelt's ability to latch securely, adjust properly, and retract smoothly. If any issue is found, the driver must not operate the vehicle until the issue is resolved, regardless of schedule pressure. This decision-making process is rooted in the principle of safety first, which is the cornerstone of professional responsibility for school bus operators. Question 2. Examination of the data shows that during the pre-trip inspection, a school bus driver notices that the emergency exit door on the rear of the bus does not latch securely and requires significant force to open from the inside. The driver is aware that the bus is scheduled to depart for a field trip in 15 minutes with 30 students aboard. What is the most appropriate course of action for the driver? Option A. Operate the bus, but make a mental note to report the issue to the mechanic after the field trip is completed. Option B. Report the issue to the supervisor immediately and refuse to operate the bus until the emergency exit is repaired and verified as functional. Option C. Proceed with the field trip, assuming the emergency exit is unlikely to be needed and can be addressed at a later date. Option D. Attempt to adjust the latch mechanism himself to ensure it secures properly before departure. Correct answer is B. Report the issue to the supervisor immediately and refuse to operate the bus until the emergency exit is repaired and verified as functional. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a school bus driver to make a critical judgment call regarding the operational readiness of an emergency exit under time pressure before commencing a route. The driver's primary responsibility is the safety of the students. A malfunctioning emergency exit, even if seemingly minor, could impede evacuation in a critical situation, leading to severe consequences. The challenge lies in balancing the need to adhere to the schedule with the absolute imperative of ensuring the vehicle is safe for operation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach is to immediately report the issue and refuse to operate the bus until the emergency exit is confirmed to be fully functional and repaired. This aligns directly with Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, FMVSS, and state-specific commercial driver's license, CDL, regulations for school buses, which mandate that all safety equipment, including emergency exits, must be in proper working order before operation. Ethically, the driver has a duty of care to the passengers, making passenger safety paramount over schedule adherence. This proactive stance prevents potential catastrophic failures and upholds the highest standards of professional responsibility. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to attempt a quick fix or to assume the issue is minor and will not affect operation. This is a regulatory failure because it bypasses the established procedure for reporting and rectifying safety defects. It is also an ethical failure as it prioritizes expediency over the safety of the students. Such an action could lead to a violation of CDL regulations and potentially result in severe liability if an incident occurs. Another incorrect approach is to operate the bus with the understanding that the exit might be problematic, intending to report it later. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Regulations require immediate attention to safety defects. Delaying reporting or operating with a known defect is a direct contravention of safety protocols and demonstrates a disregard for passenger well-being. This could lead to disciplinary action, license suspension, and legal repercussions. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the issue entirely, assuming it is not significant enough to warrant attention. This is the most egregious failure, representing a complete disregard for safety regulations and the driver's professional obligations. It is a severe ethical lapse and a direct violation of CDL requirements and school bus operation standards, exposing the driver and the school district to immense risk. Professional reasoning. When faced with a potential safety defect on a school bus, a professional driver must follow a clear decision-making process. 1. Identify the potential defect. Recognize any anomaly in the vehicle's safety equipment. 2. Assess the severity initial. Understand that any safety equipment issue requires immediate attention. 3. Consult regulations. Recall and apply specific CDL and school bus operation regulations regarding pre-trip inspections and reporting of defects. 4. Prioritize safety. Understand that passenger safety is non-negotiable and always takes precedence over schedule or convenience. 5. Follow established procedures. Report the defect immediately to the designated supervisor or maintenance personnel as per company policy and regulatory requirements. 6. Refuse operation. Do not operate the vehicle until the defect is verified as repaired and the vehicle is deemed safe for operation. 7. Document. Ensure the defect and the actions taken are properly documented. Question 3. Performance analysis shows that a school bus driver, during their pre-trip inspection, notices that the fire extinguisher's pressure gauge is slightly below the recommended operating range, though the extinguisher itself appears to be in place and undamaged. The driver is running a few minutes behind schedule for their route. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Attempt to manually adjust the pressure gauge or tamper with the extinguisher to make it appear within the acceptable range before starting the route. Option B. Inform the student's parents about the minor issue with the fire extinguisher before starting the route, but still proceed with the route. Option C. Proceed with the route as scheduled, assuming the extinguisher will still function in an emergency, and plan to have it addressed during the next scheduled maintenance. Option D. Report the fire extinguisher's pressure reading to the supervisor or mechanic immediately, and await further instructions or resolution before proceeding with the route. The correct answer is D. Report the fire extinguisher's pressure reading to the supervisor or mechanic immediately, and await further instructions or resolution before proceeding with the route. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a school bus driver to make a judgment call under pressure, balancing immediate operational needs with safety regulations. The driver's responsibility extends beyond simply transporting students. It includes ensuring the vehicle is safe and equipped for emergencies, as mandated by regulations. The core of the challenge lies in interpreting the severity of a minor equipment issue and deciding whether it warrants delaying service, potentially impacting schedules and parental expectations, or proceeding with a known, albeit minor, deficiency. Careful judgment is required to prioritize student safety above all else, adhering strictly to the spirit and letter of the law. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes student safety and regulatory compliance. By immediately reporting the issue and seeking resolution, the driver upholds their duty of care and adheres to the legal requirement to operate a safe vehicle. This proactive stance ensures that any potential hazard is addressed before it can affect student well-being. Regulations for commercial driver's licenses, particularly for school buses, are stringent regarding emergency equipment precisely because these vehicles carry vulnerable passengers. Failure to address even minor equipment issues can have serious consequences. An incorrect approach that involves ignoring the issue or downplaying its significance represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It violates the fundamental principle of operating a safe vehicle, as mandated by the Commercial Driver's License (CDL) regulations for school bus operations. This failure could lead to a situation where the emergency equipment is unavailable or ineffective when needed, directly endangering students. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of professional integrity and a disregard for the trust placed in the driver by parents and the school district. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting a quick, unauthorized fix without proper knowledge or tools, is also professionally unacceptable. This action bypasses established safety protocols and could inadvertently worsen the problem or create a new hazard. It also undermines the authority of maintenance personnel and the established procedures for vehicle repair, which are designed to ensure safety and compliance. This approach prioritizes expediency over thoroughness and safety, a critical error in a profession where safety is paramount. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear hierarchy of priorities: student safety, regulatory compliance, and operational efficiency. When faced with an equipment issue, the driver should first assess its potential impact on safety. If there is any doubt, or if the equipment is critical for emergency response, like a fire extinguisher or warning devices, the correct course of action is to report it immediately to the appropriate authority, e.g., supervisor, mechanic, and follow established procedures for repair or replacement. This ensures that the vehicle is only operated when it meets all safety standards. Question 4. The assessment process reveals that a school bus driver, during their pre-trip inspection, notices that the air pressure gauge is building up very slowly after starting the engine, and it takes significantly longer than usual to reach the required operating pressure. The driver also observes that the air pressure gauge continues to drop slowly even after the engine has been shut off. What is the most appropriate and safest course of action for the driver to take? Option A. Attempt to bleed the air tanks to see if that resolves the slow buildup issue before deciding whether to drive. Option B. Continue the route, as the air pressure eventually reaches the operational range and the low-pressure warning light has not yet illuminated. Option C. Report the slow air pressure buildup and the post-shutdown pressure drop to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel and refuse to operate the bus until the air brake system is inspected and repaired. Option D. Drive the bus to the nearest service station for immediate repair, assuming it is safe enough for a short distance. The correct answer is B. Continue the route, as the air pressure eventually reaches the operational range and the low-pressure warning light has not yet illuminated. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because a school bus driver's primary responsibility is the safe transport of children. A failure in the air brake system, particularly concerning air pressure buildup, leaks, or the low-pressure warning system, directly compromises this safety. The driver must not only identify potential issues, but also understand the critical implications of each symptom and act decisively and correctly according to established safety protocols and regulations. The pressure to maintain schedules can create a temptation to overlook minor issues, making adherence to strict inspection procedures paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves recognizing that any indication of insufficient air pressure, such as a slow buildup or a continuously dropping gauge, is a critical safety defect. This necessitates immediate action to prevent operation of the bus. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration (FMCSA) regulations, specifically those pertaining to pre-trip inspections, 49 CFR Section 396.11, mandate that drivers must inspect their vehicles and report any defects or deficiencies that could affect safety. A malfunctioning air brake system, including issues with air pressure, falls squarely into this category. The driver's ethical obligation to the passenger's safety overrides any scheduling concerns. Therefore, refusing to drive the bus until the air brake system is confirmed to be fully operational and safe is the only professionally acceptable and legally compliant action. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to assume the air pressure will build up sufficiently once the engine is running for a longer period, despite initial slow buildup. This ignores the potential for a significant leak or a failing air compressor, both of which are serious safety hazards. Operating a bus with compromised air brakes violates FMCSA regulations and creates an unacceptable risk of brake failure, leading to potential accidents and severe injury or death. This demonstrates a failure in professional judgment and a disregard for regulatory mandates. Another incorrect approach is to ignore a continuously dropping air pressure gauge after the initial buildup, especially if the low-pressure warning light is not yet illuminated. The low-pressure warning system is a last line of defense, and a dropping gauge indicates a leak or other problem that is actively depleting the system's air supply. Continuing to drive under these conditions is a direct violation of safe operating practices and FMCSA regulations, as it means the bus is operating with a compromised braking system. This shows a lack of understanding of the critical function of air pressure in brake operation, and a failure to uphold the duty of care. A third incorrect approach is to proceed with the route if the air pressure gauge appears to be within the acceptable range, but the driver suspects a minor leak that is not immediately apparent. While the gauge might be within the operational range at that moment, a suspected leak indicates a potential for rapid pressure loss. FMCSA regulations require drivers to report all vehicle defects. Failing to report a suspected leak, even if it doesn't immediately trigger a warning, is a regulatory failure and an ethical lapse, as it could lead to a more severe problem developing during the route, endangering passengers. Professional reasoning. When faced with any anomaly in the air brake system during a pre-trip inspection, a school bus driver must follow a systematic decision-making process. First, consult the vehicle's operating manual and relevant FMCSA regulations regarding pre-trip inspections and air brake systems. Second, meticulously perform all steps of the air brake system check, paying close attention to air pressure buildup time, gauge readings, and the functionality of the low-pressure warning system. Third, if any deviation from normal operation is observed, prioritize safety above all else. This means documenting the issue, reporting it to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel, and refusing to operate the vehicle until the defect is rectified and confirmed safe by qualified personnel. This process ensures compliance with regulations, upholds ethical responsibilities, and safeguards the lives of the passengers. Question 5. Analysis of school bus drivers' pre-trip inspection routine, which fluid levels are critically important to verify for safe operation and regulatory compliance according to U.S. federal guidelines. Option A. Oil, coolant, power steering fluid, and windshield washer fluid. Option B. Only engine oil and coolant, as these are the most critical for engine function. Option C. Engine oil, coolant, and transmission fluid, as these are the primary lubricants. Option D. Windshield washer fluid and brake fluid, as these are essential for visibility and stopping. The correct answer is A. Oil, coolant, power steering fluid, and windshield washer fluid. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because a school bus driver is responsible for the safety of numerous children. A failure to properly inspect critical fluid levels can lead to unexpected mechanical breakdowns, potentially stranding students in unsafe conditions or, in severe cases, contributing to accidents. The driver must exercise meticulous attention to detail and adhere strictly to pre-trip inspection protocols, as mandated by regulations, to mitigate these risks. The pressure of a tight schedule can tempt drivers to rush, making a thorough inspection even more critical. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and comprehensive inspection of all specified fluid levels as part of the pre-trip safety check. This aligns directly with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration (FMCSA) regulations, specifically 49 CFR Section 396(11), which mandates that drivers inspect their vehicles before each trip to ensure they are in safe operating condition. Checking oil, coolant, power steering fluid, and windshield washer fluid ensures the vehicle's engine is properly lubricated and cooled, the steering system is functional, and visibility is maintained, all of which are essential for safe operation and directly contribute to preventing breakdowns and accidents. This proactive approach is the cornerstone of professional responsibility for school bus drivers. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to only check the fluids that appear to be visibly low or are easily accessible. This fails to meet the regulatory requirement for a comprehensive pre-trip inspection. It is an ethical failure because it prioritizes convenience over the safety of the passengers. Another incorrect approach is to rely on the assumption that if the bus operated fine yesterday, the fluid levels will still be adequate. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of mechanical systems, as fluid levels can decrease due to leaks or normal consumption, and it violates the FMCSA mandate for a pre-trip inspection regardless of previous performance. A third incorrect approach is to delegate the fluid level check to a mechanic without performing it oneself as part of the driver's mandated pre-trip inspection. While mechanics perform maintenance, the driver is legally and ethically responsible for the pre-trip safety verification of their assigned vehicle. Professional reasoning. School bus drivers should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes safety and regulatory compliance above all else. This framework involves 1. Understanding and internalizing all applicable regulations, e.g., FMCSA pre-trip inspection requirements. 2. Developing and consistently applying a standardized pre-trip inspection checklist that includes all critical fluid levels. 3. Cultivating a habit of thoroughness, resisting any temptation to rush or cut corners, especially when time constraints are present. 4. Recognizing that the responsibility for passenger safety rests squarely on their shoulders, necessitating a proactive and diligent approach to vehicle maintenance and inspection. Question 6. Process analysis reveals that a school bus driver, during their pre-trip inspection, notices a slight but unusual vibration in the steering wheel that wasn't present the previous day. The bus is otherwise clean, and all visible components appear normal. The driver is on a tight schedule to pick up students. Which of the following actions best upholds the absolute priority of school bus safety requirements? Option A. Attempt to diagnose and fix the vibration themselves by checking tire pressure and making minor adjustments to the steering column. Option B. Immediately report the unusual vibration to the transportation supervisor and request a mechanic to inspect the vehicle before proceeding with the route. Option C. Proceed with the route but drive more cautiously, paying close attention to the steering wheel's behavior throughout the trip. Option D. Continue with the route as scheduled, assuming the vibration is minor and will resolve itself, to avoid delaying student pickup. The correct answer is B. Immediately report the unusual vibration to the transportation supervisor and request a mechanic to inspect the vehicle before proceeding with the route. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the school bus driver to make a critical judgment call under pressure, balancing the immediate need to transport students with the absolute imperative of ensuring vehicle safety. The driver must interpret subtle indicators of potential mechanical failure and understand the severe consequences of overlooking them, which could range from minor inconveniences to catastrophic accidents. This demands a deep understanding of the school bus's operational systems and a commitment to safety protocols that supersede all other considerations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes student safety above all else, aligning directly with the core mandate of a school bus driver and the stringent regulations governing school bus operations. Federal and state regulations, e.g., Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. State Department of Transportation regulations for school bus inspections mandate that school buses must be in safe operating condition before transporting passengers. A driver's pre-trip inspection is the final line of defense against mechanical failures. Identifying and reporting a potential issue, even if it seems minor, is a proactive safety measure that prevents potential breakdowns or accidents, thereby upholding the driver's ethical and legal responsibility to the students and the public. This approach demonstrates adherence to the principle of safety first and the regulatory requirement for thorough pre-trip inspections. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that involves proceeding with the route after noticing a potential issue without a thorough investigation and reporting, is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It violates the driver's duty to perform a complete pre-trip inspection as required by law and school district policy. This failure could lead to a vehicle malfunction while in transit, endangering the lives of students. Ethically, it represents a dereliction of duty and a disregard for the trust placed in the driver. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the observation as insignificant without proper verification. School bus components, especially those related to braking, steering, or emergency exits, can fail suddenly. A driver's subjective assessment of minor can be dangerously inaccurate. This approach ignores the potential for a small issue to escalate into a major safety hazard, violating the principle of due diligence in vehicle inspection. Finally, an approach that involves attempting a quick, informal fix without proper authorization or expertise is also a failure. School bus maintenance is a specialized task governed by strict protocols. Unauthorized repairs can mask underlying problems, create new ones, or violate warranty and safety standards. This bypasses the established procedures for reporting and repairing vehicle defects, which are designed to ensure that all maintenance is performed correctly and safely. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a systematic decision-making process rooted in regulatory compliance and ethical responsibility. This involves 1. Thoroughly understanding and executing all mandated pre-trip inspection procedures. 2. Recognizing that any deviation from normal operation or any unusual sound, smell, or feel warrants immediate investigation. 3. Prioritizing safety by erring on the side of caution. If there is doubt about a vehicle's safety, it should not be operated. 4. Following established reporting protocols for any identified issues, no matter how minor they may seem. 5. Communicating clearly with supervisors or mechanics about the observed problem. This process ensures that decisions are not based on convenience or assumption, but on a rigorous application of safety standards and regulatory requirements. Question 7. Benchmark analysis indicates that school bus drivers are the first line of defense in ensuring vehicle safety. During a pre-trip inspection, a driver notices some minor surface rust on the edge of a wheel rim and a few lug nuts that feel slightly less tight than others when nudged by hand. Considering the absolute priority of passenger safety and regulatory compliance for school bus operations, which of the following actions best represents professional best practice? Option A. Report the observed rust and slightly loose lug nuts to the maintenance department immediately and do not operate the bus until cleared. Option B. Only report the rust if it appears to be significantly compromising the rim's integrity and check the lug nuts again at the end of the day. Option C. Proceed with the route, assuming the rust is superficial and the lug nuts will tighten further during operation, and report it during the next scheduled maintenance. Option D. Operate the bus cautiously, keeping an extra close watch on the wheels, and mention the findings during the next routine service appointment. Correct answer is A. Report the observed rust and slightly loose lug nuts to the maintenance department immediately and do not operate the bus until cleared. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because a school bus driver's primary responsibility is the safety of their young passengers. A seemingly minor issue like a loose lug nut or rust on a wheel can have catastrophic consequences, leading to wheel detachment while in motion. The driver must possess a keen eye for detail and a thorough understanding of pre-trip inspection procedures, as mandated by regulations. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficiency in daily operations with the absolute necessity of ensuring vehicle integrity before every trip. Failure to identify and report such issues can result in severe accidents, loss of life, and significant legal and professional repercussions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a meticulous visual inspection of the wheels and rims for any signs of damage, rust, or loose lug nuts. This aligns directly with the regulatory framework for commercial driver pre-trip inspections, which emphasizes identifying defects that could impair the safe operation of the vehicle. Specifically, regulations require drivers to check for loose, missing, or damaged wheel nuts, and to ensure wheels are free from cracks, damage, or excessive rust. This proactive approach is best professional practice because it directly addresses potential safety hazards before they manifest as critical failures. It demonstrates adherence to legal obligations and a commitment to the ethical duty of care owed to students. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to assume that minor rust or a slightly loose lug nut is insignificant, especially if the bus has been operating without immediate problems. This approach fails to recognize that even minor defects can worsen rapidly under operational stress, leading to catastrophic failure. It represents a regulatory failure by neglecting the explicit requirement to inspect for and report all identified defects, regardless of perceived severity. Ethically, it breaches the duty of care to passengers. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on the mechanic's regular maintenance schedule and bypass a thorough personal pre-trip inspection of the wheels and rims. While regular maintenance is crucial, it does not absolve the driver of their responsibility for conducting daily pre-trip inspections. Regulations mandate driver inspections, and this approach constitutes a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it outsources a critical safety check that is legally the driver's responsibility. A third incorrect approach is to only inspect the wheels and rims if there is an obvious and immediate problem, such as a flat tire or a visible wobble. This reactive stance ignores the preventative nature of pre-trip inspections. It is a regulatory failure because it does not encompass the required comprehensive visual check for potential issues like hairline cracks, excessive rust that weakens the rim, or lug nuts that are not properly torqued. Ethically, it prioritizes expediency over the safety of the students. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should adopt a systematic and thorough approach to pre-trip inspections. This involves understanding the specific requirements of the Commercial Driver's License (CDL) regulations for school bus operations. The decision-making process should prioritize safety above all else. When inspecting wheels and rims, drivers should 1. Visually scan each wheel and rim for any signs of damage, such as cracks, dents, or bends. 2. Check for excessive rust, particularly around the rim seat and lug nut areas, as this can indicate structural weakness. 3. Attempt to gently rock each lug nut to detect looseness. A loose lug nut is a critical safety defect. 4. If any defect is found, no matter how minor it may seem, it must be reported immediately to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel. 5. Never operate a vehicle with a known wheel or rim defect. This methodical process, grounded in regulatory compliance and ethical responsibility, ensures the highest level of safety for student transportation. Question 8. Research into the pre-trip inspection of a school bus reveals a visible air leak emanating from one of the brake chambers. Considering the regulatory framework for commercial driver's license holders operating school buses, which of the following actions best reflects the required professional and safety-conscious response? Option A. Report the air leak to the supervisor and refuse to operate the bus until the brake chamber is inspected and repaired by a qualified mechanic. Option B. Continue the route, assuming the leak is minor and unlikely to affect braking performance significantly on this particular trip. Option C. Attempt to temporarily seal the leak with tape or other makeshift materials to prevent further air loss during the route. Option D. Proceed with the route, but make a note to have the leak addressed during the next scheduled maintenance. The correct answer is D. Proceed with the route, but make a note to have the leak addressed during the next scheduled maintenance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because a school bus driver's primary responsibility is the safety of student passengers. A compromised braking system, even if not immediately catastrophic, presents a significant and unacceptable risk. The challenge lies in accurately assessing the severity of a brake chamber issue during a pre-trip inspection, balancing the need for thoroughness with the operational demands of a school bus schedule. A driver must possess a keen understanding of potential failure modes and their implications for vehicle safety, making a judgment call that prioritizes safety above all else. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly aligns with the regulatory framework for commercial vehicle safety, specifically focusing on the critical component of the braking system. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, FMCSR, mandate that drivers perform thorough pre-trip inspections and report any defects that could affect the safe operation of the vehicle. A brake chamber exhibiting signs of leaks or damage is a clear indication of a potential malfunction that could lead to reduced braking effectiveness or complete brake failure. The regulatory requirement is to ensure the vehicle is in safe operating condition before transporting passengers. Therefore, identifying and reporting such a defect and refusing to operate the vehicle until it is repaired is not just best practice. It is a legal and ethical imperative mandated by the FMCSR, particularly Part 396, which covers inspection, repair, and maintenance. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves dismissing minor leaks as insignificant. This is a regulatory failure because the FMCSR do not define minor leaks for critical safety systems like brakes. A leak indicates a breach in the system's integrity, which can worsen over time or under stress, potentially leading to brake failure. Ethically, it violates the duty of care owed to the students. Another incorrect approach is to assume the leak will resolve itself or is a temporary issue. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of mechanical systems and a failure to adhere to the principle of proactive maintenance and defect reporting. The FMCSR require immediate reporting and correction of defects, not hopeful assumptions. A third incorrect approach is to proceed with the route but plan to have it checked later. This is a severe regulatory and ethical failure. Operating a school bus with a known brake defect is inherently dangerous and directly contravenes the FMCSR's emphasis on ensuring vehicle safety before operation. It places students at immediate risk and constitutes gross negligence. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a systematic risk assessment process. This begins with a thorough understanding of the pre-trip inspection checklist and the specific safety implications of each component. When a potential defect is identified, such as a brake chamber leak, the driver must ask, does this defect compromise the safe operation of the vehicle, particularly its ability to stop effectively? If the answer is yes, the regulatory and ethical obligation is clear. Do not operate the vehicle and report the defect immediately to the appropriate authority for repair. This decision-making process is guided by the principle of safety first, which is paramount in the transportation of school children and is reinforced by federal regulations. Question 9. Stakeholder feedback indicates a need to reinforce best practices for school bus drivers regarding the use of specialized mirrors. When approaching a school bus stop where children are expected to be present and the bus is still in motion, which mirror usage strategy best ensures compliance with safety regulations and maximizes hazard detection? Option A. Actively scan both the convex mirrors and the crossview mirrors to identify potential hazards in blind spots, particularly around the front and sides of the bus, while simultaneously monitoring conventional mirrors for traffic. Option B. Use the crossview mirrors only when the bus has come to a complete stop and is preparing to load or unload passengers. Option C. Focus exclusively on the convex mirrors to gain the widest possible field of vision, assuming they will reveal all potential hazards. Option D. Primarily rely on conventional side mirrors to check for traffic, only glancing at the crossview mirrors if a child is directly visible in the conventional mirror's limited view. The correct answer is A. Actively scan both the convex mirrors and the crossview mirrors to identify potential hazards in blind spots, particularly around the front and sides of the bus, while simultaneously monitoring conventional mirrors for traffic. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a school bus driver to interpret and apply specific mirror usage regulations in a dynamic, real-world driving environment where safety is paramount. The driver must balance the need for constant situational awareness with the specific requirements for using school bus mirrors to ensure the safety of children. The challenge lies in understanding the purpose and limitations of each mirror type, and knowing when and how to use them effectively to detect hazards that might not be visible through conventional mirrors. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly aligns with the regulatory framework designed to enhance school bus safety. Specifically, the proper use of convex mirrors and crossview mirrors is mandated by regulations to provide the driver with a wider field of vision, particularly for detecting pedestrians, cyclists, and other vehicles in blind spots. This proactive approach to hazard identification, enabled by correct mirror usage, is crucial for preventing accidents, especially during loading and unloading procedures. Adhering to these mirror usage guidelines is not just a procedural requirement, but a fundamental ethical obligation to protect vulnerable passengers. An incorrect approach, such as relying solely on conventional mirrors, fails to meet regulatory requirements and creates significant safety risks. Conventional mirrors, while useful, have inherent limitations in their field of view. Over-reliance on them without utilizing the specialized school bus mirrors means the driver is likely to miss hazards in critical areas, such as directly in front of the bus or to the sides where children might be present. This constitutes a direct regulatory failure as it bypasses mandated safety equipment, and a severe ethical failure due to the increased risk of injury or fatality to students. Another incorrect approach, such as using crossview mirrors only when stopped, ignores their crucial role in monitoring traffic and pedestrians while the bus is in motion, especially when approaching intersections or making turns. This also represents a regulatory and ethical lapse by not utilizing all available safety features as intended. Professional decision-making in such situations should involve a systematic process. First, understanding the specific purpose and regulatory mandate for each type of mirror: convex for wide angle, crossview for front/side blind spots. Second, integrating the visual information from all mirrors into a continuous scanning pattern, especially during critical maneuvers like approaching stops, loading/unloading, and turning. Third, prioritizing the detection of vulnerable road users, children, in all blind spots. Finally, consistently applying this mirror usage protocol as a core component of defensive driving, recognizing that these specialized mirrors are not optional but essential safety tools. Question 10. Compliance review shows that a school bus driver during their pre-trip inspection notices that the air pressure gauge is reading lower than usual, though it remains above the red warning line. The driver is on a tight schedule to pick up students. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Continue operating the bus as normal, as the gauge is not yet in the red zone, and address it later if the problem worsens. Option B. Immediately report the air pressure gauge reading to the appropriate supervisor or mechanic, and await further instruction before operating the bus. Option C. Ignore the reading as it is not a critical indicator, and focus on adhering to the pickup schedule. Option D. Attempt to top off the air pressure by running the engine for an extended period before departing to ensure sufficient pressure. Correct answer is B. Immediately report the air pressure gauge reading to the appropriate supervisor or mechanic, and await further instruction before operating the bus. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the driver to interpret a critical safety indicator, the air pressure gauge, and make an immediate decision that impacts student safety and operational compliance. The ambiguity of a gauge reading that is lower than usual, but not at the red line, demands a nuanced understanding of acceptable operating parameters and the potential consequences of ignoring subtle deviations. The driver must balance the immediate need to transport students with the overarching responsibility for their safety and adherence to regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach is to immediately report the air pressure gauge reading to the appropriate supervisor or mechanic and await further instruction before operating the bus. This aligns with the fundamental principle of prioritizing safety above all else in school bus operations. Federal and state regulations for commercial drivers, particularly those operating school buses, mandate pre-trip inspections and the reporting of any vehicle defects or abnormal readings. While the gauge may not be in the red zone, a lower than usual reading indicates a potential issue that could compromise the braking system's effectiveness. Ignoring such a deviation, even if it appears minor, is a violation of the driver's duty of care and regulatory requirements to ensure the vehicle is in safe operating condition. This proactive reporting ensures that a qualified individual can assess the situation, diagnose any underlying problem, and prevent a potential safety hazard from escalating. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to continue operating the bus as normal because the gauge is not in the red zone. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it disregards the principle of proactive safety. The red line on an air pressure gauge signifies a critically low level where brake function is severely compromised. However, a reading that is lower than usual suggests a gradual loss of air pressure, which, if left unaddressed, could eventually lead to the gauge reaching the red zone while in operation, potentially during a critical maneuver like braking. This approach demonstrates a lack of diligence in pre-trip inspections and a failure to recognize that even subtle deviations from normal readings can indicate developing problems. Another incorrect approach is to attempt to top off the air pressure by running the engine for an extended period without reporting the issue. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it attempts to mask a potential problem rather than address its root cause. While running the engine will increase air pressure, it does not resolve the underlying reason for the pressure drop. This could be a leak in the air brake system, a faulty compressor, or other issues. By not reporting, the driver is failing to initiate the proper maintenance and repair process, potentially allowing a more serious problem to develop and putting students at risk. It also circumvents the established procedures for reporting vehicle malfunctions. Professional reasoning. When faced with an ambiguous but potentially safety-compromising vehicle reading, a school bus driver should follow a systematic decision-making process. 1. Recognize the indicator. Understand the function and importance of the air pressure gauge for the braking system. 2. Assess the reading. Compare the current reading to normal operating parameters and identify any deviation, even if not critical. 3. Consult regulations and procedures. Recall pre-trip inspection requirements and reporting protocols for vehicle defects. 4. Prioritize safety. Understand that student safety is paramount and overrides operational convenience. 5. Report and seek guidance. Immediately communicate the observation to the designated supervisor or mechanic and await their assessment and instructions. 6. Document the event. Maintain a record of the observation and the actions taken. This process ensures that potential safety issues are identified and addressed promptly, and in accordance with established safety and regulatory frameworks. Question 11. Which approach would be most appropriate for a school bus driver to take when discovering that the audible alarm for the flashing red lights is not functioning prior to commencing a route? Option A. Proceed with the route but verbally instruct students to be extra cautious when boarding or alighting. Option B. Continue the route, as the flashing red lights themselves are the primary safety feature and the audible alarm is secondary. Option C. Report the malfunction to the transportation supervisor and do not operate the bus until the audible alarm is repaired. Option D. Attempt a temporary fix by using a different audible signal, such as honking the horn, to alert other drivers. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the route, but verbally instruct students to be extra cautious when boarding or alighting. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a school bus driver to balance immediate operational needs with stringent safety regulations designed to protect vulnerable passengers. The driver must make a judgment call that could impact the safety of children if a critical piece of equipment is not functioning correctly. Careful consideration of the specific safety equipment mandated for school buses is paramount. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the absolute safety of the students above all else, aligning directly with the core purpose of school bus transportation and the regulatory framework governing it. This approach demonstrates an understanding that certain safety equipment is non-negotiable for operation, as it is specifically designed to mitigate risks inherent in transporting children. Adherence to these regulations is not merely a procedural step, but an ethical imperative. An incorrect approach that involves operating the bus with a known defect in critical safety equipment is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a direct violation of federal and state regulations, e.g., Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, state-specific vehicle inspection requirements that mandate the proper functioning of all safety features. Ethically, it represents a dereliction of duty to protect the passengers. Operating without functioning emergency exits, for instance, creates a severe hazard in the event of a fire or other emergency, directly contravening the driver's responsibility to ensure safe egress. Similarly, ignoring a malfunctioning stop arm or crossing control arm compromises the safety of children boarding or alighting the bus. Primary concern addressed by specific school bus equipment regulations. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the operational requirements versus safety mandates. When faced with a potential safety equipment failure, the driver must consult their training and the vehicle's operational manual. if the equipment is deemed critical by regulation or manufacturer specification. The bus must be removed from service until the defect is rectified. This decision-making process prioritizes regulatory compliance and passenger safety, ensuring that the driver acts as a responsible steward of the children entrusted to their care. Question 12. The review process indicates that a school bus driver is preparing for their daily route. The bus is equipped with child safety restraint systems. Which of the following actions demonstrates the most thorough and compliant approach to ensuring the safety of these restraint systems before operating the bus? Option A. Visually confirm that the child safety restraint systems are present and appear to be in good condition. Option B. Briefly check if the restraint system's buckles are present, assuming they will function correctly when needed. Option C. Perform a functional check of each child safety restraint system, ensuring it is securely latched and operational according to manufacturer guidelines. Option D. Rely on the fact that the child safety restraint systems were used and appeared functional on the previous day's route. The correct answer is A. Visually confirm that the child safety restraint systems are present and appear to be in good condition. Explanation. The review process indicates a need to assess a school bus driver's understanding of child safety restraint systems, specifically focusing on their inspection and operation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the driver's primary responsibility is the safe transportation of children, and any lapse in the proper functioning or inspection of safety equipment can have severe consequences. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all safety systems are not only present, but also in perfect working order before each trip. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it aligns directly with federal and state regulations governing school bus safety, which mandate thorough pre-trip inspections of all safety equipment, including child safety restraint systems if equipped. This proactive approach ensures that the bus is safe for operation and that all passengers, especially young children who may require specialized restraints, are adequately protected. Adhering to these inspection protocols is a non-negotiable ethical and legal obligation for school bus drivers. An incorrect approach that involves a cursory glance at the restraint system without verifying its secure attachment and proper functioning is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a direct violation of pre-trip inspection requirements, potentially leading to a child not being properly secured, which is a significant safety hazard. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the well-being of the passengers. Another incorrect approach, assuming the restraints are functional because they were used on the previous trip, ignores the dynamic nature of equipment and the possibility of damage or malfunction occurring between trips. This assumption is a critical safety oversight and a breach of the driver's duty of care. Finally, focusing solely on the visible presence of the restraint system without checking for proper installation and operational readiness fails to meet the standard of a comprehensive safety inspection. Professionals should employ a systematic decision-making framework that prioritizes safety above all else. This framework involves 1. Understanding and internalizing all relevant regulations and manufacturer guidelines for safety equipment. 2. Implementing a standardized pre-trip inspection checklist that includes detailed checks for each safety system, such as child restraint systems. 3. Performing a hands-on functional check of the equipment, not just a visual confirmation. 4. Documenting all inspection findings, including any issues or confirmations of proper operation. 5. Reporting any deficiencies immediately and refusing to operate the vehicle until the issues are resolved. Question 13. The analysis reveals that a school bus driver is preparing for their daily route and notices a potential issue with the air brake system. To ensure the safety of their passengers and comply with regulations, the driver needs to address the air tanks. Considering the purpose and procedure of air tank draining, which of the following actions best demonstrates professional responsibility and adherence to safe operating practices for a school bus? Option A. Draining the air tanks while the engine is running to quickly expel any moisture, without considering the potential hazards of releasing compressed air. Option B. Assuming the automatic drain valves will adequately manage moisture and contaminants, therefore skipping the manual draining procedure during the pre-trip inspection. Option C. Manually draining the air tanks by opening the drain cocks at the bottom of each tank to release accumulated moisture and contaminants, ensuring the vehicle is parked on level ground with the parking brake engaged and the engine off. Option D. Only draining the air tanks if a warning light specifically indicates a problem with the air system, rather than as a routine maintenance check. The correct answer is C. Manually draining the air tanks by opening the drain cocks at the bottom of each tank to release accumulated moisture and contaminants, ensuring the vehicle is parked on level ground with the parking brake engaged and the engine off. Explanation: the analysis reveals a common, yet critical maintenance task for commercial drivers, specifically school bus operators, which is the draining of air tanks. This scenario is professionally challenging because improper execution can lead to significant safety hazards and operational disruptions. A school bus relies on its air brake system for effective stopping power, and any compromise in this system, such as water or contaminants in the air tanks, can lead to brake failure. Therefore, understanding the purpose and procedure for draining these tanks is paramount for ensuring student safety and regulatory compliance. The correct approach to draining air tanks is to follow the manufacturer's instructions and established safe operating procedures, typically involving the manual or automatic release of moisture and contaminants. This represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the regulatory requirement to maintain the vehicle's braking system in safe operating condition. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, FMCSR, mandate that commercial vehicles be maintained in a safe operating condition, and this includes the air brake system. Draining the tanks prevents the buildup of water, which can freeze in cold weather, leading to brake malfunction or cause corrosion and damage to brake components. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the need to drain the air tanks, assuming the system will function adequately without this maintenance. This is a regulatory failure because it violates the driver's responsibility to perform pre-trip inspections and ensure the vehicle is safe to operate. Ethically, it is a failure to prioritize the safety of the students being transported. Another incorrect approach would be to drain the tanks improperly, such as by releasing the air while the vehicle is in motion or without ensuring the area is clear of personnel, which could create a safety hazard. This is a procedural and safety failure, potentially leading to injury and violating general safe work practices. A further incorrect approach might be to rely solely on automatic drain valves without periodically checking their functionality, as these can become clogged or fail. This represents a lapse in diligent maintenance and a potential regulatory oversight, as the driver is ultimately responsible for the safe condition of the vehicle. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes safety and regulatory compliance. This involves understanding the purpose of each maintenance task, adhering strictly to established procedures, and conducting thorough pre-trip and post-trip inspections. When in doubt, consulting the vehicle's manual or seeking guidance from a qualified mechanic is essential. The driver's responsibility extends beyond simply operating the vehicle. It encompasses ensuring its mechanical integrity, especially for a vehicle carrying vulnerable passengers like schoolchildren. Question 14. Compliance review shows that a school bus driver is conducting their pre-trip inspection. Regarding the passenger seating, which of the following actions best demonstrates adherence to regulatory requirements for ensuring passenger safety? Option A. Physically checking each seat for secure mounting to the bus floor and inspecting for any damage to the seat structure or upholstery. Option B. Visually scanning all passenger seats to ensure they appear to be in good condition without any obvious defects. Option C. Performing a quick check of only those seats that show visible signs of wear or damage. Option D. Confirming that all passenger seats are clean and free from debris before the start of the route. The correct answer is A. Physically checking each seat for secure mounting to the bus floor and inspecting for any damage to the seat structure or upholstery. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because a school bus driver's primary responsibility is the safety of their young passengers. A seemingly minor issue with passenger seating, such as a loose seatbelt or a damaged seat back, can escalate into a serious accident during sudden stops or turns. The driver must exercise keen judgment to identify potential hazards that might not be immediately obvious to a casual observer, balancing the need for efficiency with an unwavering commitment to safety. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough, systematic inspection of each passenger seat, focusing on both the physical condition of the seat and the security of its attachment to the bus floor. This aligns with federal and state regulations, e.g., Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards FMVSS 222 for school bus passenger seating and crash protection, and state-specific pre-trip inspection requirements that mandate that all safety equipment, including seating, must be in good working order and securely fastened. A driver who meticulously checks for torn upholstery, loose components, and secure mounting points is upholding their legal and ethical duty to prevent injuries. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that only visually scans the seats without physically checking for looseness or damage is a regulatory failure. It bypasses the requirement for a functional safety check and relies on superficial observation, which is insufficient to detect compromised structural integrity or security. This could lead to a seat detaching or failing during transit, violating FMVSS 222 and state pre-trip inspection mandates. Another incorrect approach is to only check seats that appear visibly damaged. This is a critical ethical and regulatory failure because it ignores the possibility of hidden damage or loosening that is not outwardly apparent. Regulations require a comprehensive inspection, not a selective one based on visible cues. This selective inspection could miss a seat that is structurally unsound but appears intact, posing a significant risk to passengers. Focusing solely on the cleanliness of the seats, while important for passenger comfort and hygiene, is a regulatory and ethical oversight in the context of safety. Cleanliness does not guarantee the structural integrity or secure mounting of the seating. A clean but loose or damaged seat remains a hazard, and prioritizing aesthetics over safety violates the fundamental duty of care owed to the students. Professional reasoning. School bus drivers should employ a multi-point inspection process for passenger seating. This process should include 1. Visual inspection for any obvious damage, tears, or missing components. 2. Physical manipulation of each seat to check for looseness at its mounting points. 3. Verification of the functionality of any integrated safety restraints e.g. seatbelts if equipped. 4. Confirmation that the seat back is secure and does not lean excessively. This systematic approach ensures that all aspects of seating safety, as mandated by regulations, are addressed before transporting passengers. Question 15. Benchmark analysis indicates that school bus drivers face ethical dilemmas during pre-trip inspections. You are conducting your pre-trip inspection and notice that the right rear turn signal on your school bus flickers intermittently. It works correctly most of the time, but you observed it flicker a few times during your walk around. You are on a tight schedule to pick up students. What is the most appropriate action to take? Option A. Report the flickering turn signal to your supervisor and await instructions or a replacement vehicle before proceeding with the route. Option B. Operate the bus, but use hand signals in addition to the turn signal to alert other drivers when turning. Option C. Ignore the flickering signal as it is intermittent and the bus is otherwise operational. Option D. Continue with the route, assuming the signal will likely correct itself, and plan to report it at the end of the day. Correct answer is A. Report the flickering turn signal to your supervisor and await instructions or a replacement vehicle before proceeding with the route. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a school bus driver to make a judgment call regarding safety equipment that is not immediately obvious as faulty, but could potentially compromise the safety of students. The driver must balance the immediate need to transport students with the absolute priority of ensuring the vehicle is in safe operating condition, as mandated by regulations. The ethical dilemma arises from the potential risk to students versus the operational inconvenience of delaying service. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the safety of the students above all else, adhering strictly to the principle of, when in doubt, err on the side of caution. This aligns with the fundamental responsibility of a school bus driver to ensure the vehicle is safe before operating it, as required by commercial driver's license regulations concerning pre-trip inspections and ongoing vehicle safety. Specifically, regulations mandate that all safety equipment, including lighting and reflectors, must be in proper working order. A flickering turn signal, even if intermittent, indicates a malfunction that could lead to confusion for other motorists, increasing the risk of an accident. Therefore, reporting the issue and ensuring it is rectified before transporting students is the only compliant and ethical course of action. An incorrect approach that involves ignoring the flickering turn signal because it sometimes works is professionally unacceptable. This failure directly violates regulatory requirements for pre-trip inspections and ongoing vehicle safety. It demonstrates a disregard for the potential consequences of a malfunctioning signal, which could lead to a collision. Ethically, it prioritizes convenience over the safety of vulnerable passengers. Another incorrect approach, which is to assume the problem will resolve itself or is minor, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to adhere to the driver's responsibility to report and address all vehicle defects. Regulations require proactive identification and reporting of issues, not passive hope for self-correction. This approach creates a significant safety risk and is a breach of professional duty. Finally, an incorrect approach that involves continuing the route while planning to report the issue later, without first confirming the signal's reliability, is also professionally unacceptable. While reporting is important, the immediate pre-trip inspection and ongoing operational checks are designed to identify and rectify issues before transporting passengers. Operating a vehicle with a known, albeit intermittent, defect in a critical safety system like a turn signal is a direct violation of safety protocols and regulations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Understand and internalize all regulatory requirements for vehicle safety and pre-trip inspections. 2. Conduct thorough pre-trip inspections diligently, paying close attention to all safety systems, including lights and reflectors. 3. When any anomaly is detected, even if intermittent, treat it as a potential safety hazard. 4. Consult the vehicle's operating manual or maintenance logs if unsure about a specific issue. 5. If a defect is identified that could compromise safety, the vehicle must not be operated until the defect is repaired and verified. 6. Report all identified defects promptly and accurately to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel. 7. Prioritize the safety of passengers above all other considerations, including schedule adherence or personal convenience. Question 16. During the evaluation of a school bus's cooling system, a driver notices a significant amount of coolant leaking from the radiator area and hears an unusual rattling noise from the fan shroud. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Immediately pull over to a safe location, shut down the engine, and report the issue to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel. Option B. Ignore the leak and the noise, assuming it is a minor issue that will not affect the bus's operation. Option C. Continue the route but drive at a reduced speed to minimize engine strain, hoping the leak will stop. Option D. Attempt to tighten any visible hoses or clamps to stop the leak before continuing the route. The correct answer is A. Immediately pull over to a safe location, shut down the engine, and report the issue to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because a school bus driver's primary responsibility is the safe transportation of children. A failure in the cooling system, specifically the radiator or fan, can lead to engine overheating, potentially causing a breakdown in a remote or unsafe location, or even a fire. The driver must make a critical judgment call based on observable conditions and their understanding of the vehicle's systems, balancing the need to maintain the schedule with the paramount safety of the passengers. The challenge lies in accurately assessing the severity of the issue and determining the appropriate course of action without extensive mechanical knowledge, adhering strictly to established safety protocols. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves recognizing potential signs of cooling system malfunction and taking immediate, conservative action to ensure passenger safety and prevent further damage. This aligns with the core principles of school bus operation, which prioritize safety above all else. Regulatory frameworks for commercial drivers, particularly those operating school buses, mandate thorough pre-trip and post-trip inspection, including checks of critical systems like the cooling system. Identifying a leak, unusual noises, or temperature gauge fluctuations requires the driver to stop the vehicle in a safe location, report the issue, and await qualified assistance. This proactive and safety-first response is mandated by regulations designed to prevent accidents and ensure the well-being of students. Incorrect approaches analysis. Continuing the route despite observable cooling system issues is a direct violation of safety regulations and ethical responsibilities. Ignoring a leaking radiator or a malfunctioning fan risks catastrophic engine failure, potentially stranding students in an unsafe environment or leading to a more severe mechanical problem, such as a fire. This demonstrates a failure to adhere to pre-trip inspection requirements and a disregard for passenger safety. Attempting to diagnose or repair the cooling system without proper training or tools is also professionally unacceptable. School bus drivers are trained to operate the vehicle safely and identify potential problems, not to perform complex mechanical repairs. Such actions could exacerbate the problem, create new hazards, or lead to further delays, all while compromising safety. This approach bypasses established procedures for reporting and addressing mechanical defects, which are designed to ensure that repairs are made by qualified personnel. Failing to report the issue to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel is a critical oversight. This prevents the necessary steps from being taken to address the defect, potentially putting other drivers and students at risk if the vehicle is used without the problem being rectified. This omission constitutes a breach of reporting protocols and a failure to uphold the duty of care owed to passengers and the public. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes safety and adherence to regulations. This involves 1. Vigilance, actively monitoring vehicle performance and gauges during operation. 2. Identification, recognizing deviations from normal operation, such as unusual sounds, smells, or visual cues like leaks. 3. Assessment, evaluating the potential safety implications of the identified issue. 4. Action, taking immediate, safe, and compliant steps, which typically include stopping the vehicle in a safe location and reporting the problem. 5. Communication, clearly and promptly informing supervisors or dispatch about the issue and the actions taken. This systematic approach ensures that potential hazards are mitigated effectively and in accordance with established safety standards. Question 17. Cost-benefit analysis shows that while maintaining operational efficiency is important, the primary consideration for a school bus driver experiencing a new, potentially impairing medical symptom must be the absolute safety of student passengers. Which of the following actions best aligns with the regulatory framework for school bus drivers concerning medical requirements? Option A. Drive only on familiar routes and during daylight hours until the symptom subsides, believing this mitigates the risk. Option B. Consult with other drivers to gauge their opinions on whether the symptom is serious enough to warrant reporting. Option C. Immediately cease driving operations and report the symptom to the school district's transportation supervisor and seek prompt medical evaluation from a certified medical examiner. Option D. Continue driving while monitoring symptoms, assuming the condition is minor and will resolve on its own, to avoid disrupting the school transportation schedule. The correct answer is D. Continue driving while monitoring symptoms, assuming the condition is minor and will resolve on its own, to avoid disrupting the school transportation schedule. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a school bus driver to balance their personal health with their absolute responsibility for the safety of student passengers. The medical requirements for school bus drivers are stringent and non-negotiable due to the critical nature of their role. A driver's physical and mental well-being directly impacts their ability to operate a large vehicle safely, react to emergencies, and maintain discipline on the bus. The cost-benefit analysis in this context heavily favors absolute adherence to medical regulations, as the potential benefit of a driver feeling well enough to drive is vastly outweighed by the catastrophic cost of an accident caused by an undetected medical condition. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes student safety above all else, aligning with the core ethical and regulatory mandates of a school bus driver. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA regulations, specifically 49 CFR Part 391, Subpart E, outline the medical qualifications for commercial drivers, including school bus drivers. These regulations are designed to ensure that drivers are physically and mentally capable of performing their duties without posing a risk to themselves or others. Adhering to these requirements, even when it means temporarily stepping away from driving duties, demonstrates a commitment to professional responsibility and regulatory compliance. An incorrect approach that involves downplaying symptoms or attempting to push through a medical issue is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Violates the spirit and letter of FMCSA regulations, which require drivers to report any medical condition that might affect their ability to drive safely. Ethically, it is a breach of trust with parents, school administrators, and the students themselves, who rely on the driver's fitness for duty. Another incorrect approach, such as seeking a medical exemption without fully disclosing all relevant medical information to the examining physician, is fraudulent and dangerous. This undermines the integrity of the medical certification process and puts students at undue risk. Professional decision-making in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the regulatory framework, particularly the FMCSA medical requirements. Drivers should be encouraged to proactively communicate any health concerns to their medical examiner and to err on the side of caution when their health is in question. If a medical condition arises that could impair driving ability, the professional response is to immediately inform their employer and seek appropriate medical evaluation and clearance before operating a school bus. This decision-making process is rooted in a hierarchy of priorities where student safety and regulatory compliance are paramount. Question 18. Operational review demonstrates that during a routine morning route, two students in the middle of the bus begin to engage in a loud argument, escalating to name-calling and pushing. Other students are becoming visibly agitated and distracted. What is the most appropriate course of action for the school bus operator? Option A. Immediately pull the bus over to the side of the road in a safe location. Calmly but firmly address the disruptive students by name, stating that their behavior is unacceptable and violates school rules, and then proceed to contact the school administration to report the incident and request guidance according to district policy. Option B. Focus solely on the student who appears to be instigating the argument the most and issue a stern warning to that individual, while largely ignoring the other students' participation. Option C. Stop the bus abruptly and yell at the students involved, threatening to call their parents immediately and remove them from the bus if they do not cease their behavior. Option D. Continue driving and attempt to de-escalate the situation by making a general announcement to the entire bus about the importance of good behavior, hoping the students involved will quiet down on their own. The correct answer is A. Immediately pull the bus over to the side of the road in a safe location. Calmly but firmly address the disruptive students by name, stating that their behavior is unacceptable and violates school rules, and then proceed to contact the school administration to report the incident and request guidance according to district policy. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common yet challenging ethical dilemma for school bus operators. The core challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to maintain order and safety on the bus with the long-term responsibility of fostering a positive and respectful learning environment for all students. The operator must act decisively to address disruptive behavior, while also considering the individual circumstances of the students involved and adhering to established school policies and legal requirements. Failure to manage the situation effectively can lead to escalating disruptions, potential safety hazards, and negative impacts on the educational experience of all passengers. Correct approach analysis. The most professional and ethically sound approach involves a calm, firm, and consistent response that prioritizes de-escalation and adherence to established protocols. This includes immediately addressing the disruptive behavior in a manner that is age-appropriate and non-punitive, while also clearly communicating expectations for conduct. The operator should then follow the school district's established procedures for reporting and addressing student behavior, which typically involves documenting the incident and informing school administration. This approach upholds the operator's duty of care, ensures compliance with school bus safety regulations, and promotes a structured environment conducive to learning. It recognizes that effective student behavior management is an integral part of safe school bus operation. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to ignore the behavior, hoping it resolves itself. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Ignoring disruptive behavior directly violates the operator's responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of all passengers. It can embolden the disruptive students, leading to more severe incidents and potentially creating a dangerous situation. Furthermore, it fails to uphold the school district's policies on student conduct and can create an environment where other students feel unsafe or disrespected. Another incorrect approach would be to react with anger or to use excessive disciplinary measures that are not in line with school policy or are disproportionate to the offense. This is an ethical failure as it can escalate the situation, create fear, and damage the student-operator relationship. It also risks violating student rights and school district disciplinary guidelines, potentially leading to formal complaints and disciplinary action against the operator. Such a reaction undermines the professional demeanor expected of a school bus operator. A third incorrect approach would be to single out and publicly shame one student while overlooking the contributions of others to the disruption. This is an ethical failure as it is unfair, discriminatory, and can have lasting negative psychological effects on the targeted student. It also fails to address the root cause of the behavior and can foster resentment and further conflict. Professionally, it demonstrates a lack of impartiality and an inability to manage group dynamics effectively. Professional reasoning. When faced with disruptive student behavior on a school bus, a professional operator should first assess the immediate safety risk. If there is no immediate danger, the operator should calmly and assertively address the behavior, clearly stating the expected conduct. The next crucial step is to follow the school district's established disciplinary procedures, which typically involve documenting the incident and reporting it to the appropriate school personnel. This systematic approach ensures that behavior is managed consistently, fairly, and in accordance with established policies, thereby maintaining a safe and orderly environment for all students. Question 19. Regulatory review indicates that a school bus driver is conducting their mandatory pre-trip inspection and notices that one of the tires on the rear axle has tread depth that appears to be nearing the minimum legal limit, though it is not visibly bald. The driver has a full schedule of student pickups. What is the most appropriate course of action according to school bus driver regulations? Option A. Proceed with the route as scheduled, making a mental note to report the tire to maintenance at the end of the day. Option B. Report the tire tread depth to the maintenance supervisor immediately and await their assessment before proceeding with the route. Option C. Continue the route, assuming the tire is still safe as it is not bald and has not caused issues previously. Option D. Overlook the tire tread depth, as it is not a critical safety component, requiring immediate attention during a pre-trip inspection. Correct answer is B. Report the tire tread depth to the maintenance supervisor immediately and await their assessment before proceeding with the route. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because a school bus driver must prioritize the safety of their young passengers above all else. A seemingly minor issue, like a slightly worn tire tread, can have catastrophic consequences in adverse weather or during an emergency maneuver. The driver's judgment is critical in determining if a vehicle is safe for operation, and this decision directly impacts the well-being of numerous children. The pressure to adhere to a schedule can create a temptation to overlook potential safety concerns, making a rigorous and principled approach to pre-trip inspections paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves meticulously following the established pre-trip inspection checklist, paying close attention to all safety-critical components, and taking immediate action to address any identified defects. This aligns with the absolute priority of ensuring the school bus is in safe operating condition before transporting students. Regulations for commercial drivers, particularly those operating school buses, mandate thorough inspections to prevent accidents and ensure compliance with safety standards. Identifying and reporting a worn tire tread, even if it appears minor, demonstrates adherence to these regulations and a commitment to the highest professional standards of safety. This proactive measure prevents potential mechanical failure and upholds the driver's responsibility to the students, parents, and the school district. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to dismiss the worn tire tread as insignificant because the bus has operated without issue previously. This is a failure to adhere to the regulatory requirement for a pre-trip inspection, which is designed to identify potential problems before they manifest into failures. Ethically, it disregards the driver's duty of care to the students. Another incorrect approach is to assume that the maintenance department will catch any issues during routine service, thus bypassing a thorough personal inspection. This abdicates the driver's direct responsibility for the immediate safety of the vehicle they are operating. Regulations place the onus on the driver to perform the pre-trip inspection and certify the vehicle's safety. A third incorrect approach is to proceed with the route but make a mental note to report the tire later. This is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. The pre-trip inspection is a certification of the vehicle's condition at the time of inspection. Operating a vehicle with a known safety defect, even with the intention to report it later, is a violation of safety regulations and a breach of the driver's duty to ensure the vehicle is safe before commencing operation. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes safety and regulatory compliance. This involves 1. Understanding and internalizing all applicable regulations and checklists. 2. Performing each step of the pre-trip inspection with diligence and without distraction. 3. Exercising sound judgment when evaluating the condition of components, erring on the side of caution when safety is in question. 4. Immediately reporting and addressing any identified defects according to established procedures, even if it means delaying a route. 5. recognizing that the safety of passengers is non-negotiable and supersedes any other consideration, such as schedule adherence. Question 20. Strategic planning requires school bus operators to meticulously assess the condition and security of interior safety features. During a pre-trip inspection, a driver notices that one of the vertical stanchions appears slightly loose when pushed firmly. The handrail attached to it has a few minor scuff marks, but feels solid. Considering the absolute priority of passenger safety and regulatory compliance for a commercial driver's licensed school bus, what is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Proceed with the route as scheduled, as the stanchion is only slightly loose and the handrail is otherwise intact, assuming it will hold up during the trip. Option B. Tighten the stanchion yourself if possible and then proceed with the route, considering the scuff marks on the handrail as insignificant. Option C. Report the slightly loose stanchion to the maintenance department for inspection and potential repair before operating the bus, and note the scuff marks on the handrail as a minor observation. Option D. Document the loose stanchion and scuff marks as noted, but operate the bus as usual, planning to address it during the next scheduled maintenance. The correct answer is C. Report the slightly loose stanchion to the maintenance department for inspection and potential repair before operating the bus, and note the scuff marks on the handrail as a minor observation. Explanation: strategic planning for school bus operations necessitates a thorough understanding of pre-trip inspection protocols, particularly concerning safety-critical components like handrails and stanchions. The professional challenge lies in accurately identifying subtle signs of wear, damage, or looseness that could compromise passenger safety, especially for young children who may rely heavily on these supports. A driver must not only visually inspect, but also physically test the security of these components, recognizing that a seemingly minor issue could escalate into a serious accident. The correct approach involves a systematic and hands-on inspection, verifying that all handrails and stanchions are firmly attached, free from cracks or sharp edges, and provide adequate support. This aligns with the fundamental regulatory requirement for school bus drivers to ensure the vehicle is in safe operating condition before each trip. Specifically, regulations mandate that all safety equipment, including interior grab handles and support poles, must be secure and functional. This proactive approach prevents potential injuries during transit, such as falls caused by a loose stanchion or cuts from damaged handrails. An incorrect approach would be to perform only a cursory visual check without testing the stanchions for stability. This fails to meet the regulatory standard of ensuring the component is secure and in safe operating condition. Ethically, it represents a dereliction of duty to the passengers. Another incorrect approach is to overlook minor cosmetic damage, such as superficial scratches, if they do not appear to affect structural integrity. While cosmetic issues might not immediately pose a safety risk, regulations often require reporting any damage, and seemingly minor issues can sometimes indicate underlying structural weaknesses. The failure to report or address such damage, even if not immediately critical, violates the spirit of thorough inspection and maintenance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a checklist-based pre-trip inspection that includes specific checks for handrails and stanchions. Drivers should be trained to understand what constitutes a safety concern versus a minor cosmetic issue. When in doubt about the security or condition of any safety component, the driver's professional responsibility is to err on the side of caution, report the issue, and seek clarification or repair before operating the vehicle. This prioritizes passenger safety above all else and ensures compliance with all applicable regulations.